All right, let's take a look at India today. India went on a coal-fired power plant building binge in the mid 2000s, and as you can see from earthnullschool.net, they do have pretty high values, although not the highest in the world. Down here at the lower left, Earth Null School tells you how much SO2, sulfur dioxide, they have in micrograms per cubic meter. And we have, here in the Ohio Valley, we have numbers pretty similar to this. Now, we should look and see what kind of effect this is having on their temperature anomalies, because my claim is that the aerosols from coal burning, they reflect incoming solar radiation and therefore suppress heat. And they do this most effectively when it's needed the most, when it's hottest. And it turns out May is India's pre-monsoon season, and that is when they peak out in their hottest days. But as we can see here, this is the monthly NASA report. And what we're doing here is comparing the baseline period. They actually let you choose the baseline period as well. I put in 1920 to 1960. We could have put in other dates. It doesn't really matter for this analysis, but here I'm comparing May 2025 to the baseline period, which would be all the months of May from 1920 to 1960. And the blue is below the baseline, and we see here in May of 2025, India was remarkably cooler than most of the planet. We go to May 2024, not quite as dramatic this time, but still relatively cool. 2023, once again, India, cooler than average, relatively cool in 2022. 2021, more of the same. 2020, more. Yeah, you get the idea. It's actually quite consistent. Now, it's interesting to compare India which has high sulfate levels and therefore a lot of aerosol masking effect, to Brazil. And Brazil has a hot, dry season also, and their hot, dry season tops out in September. Brazil has not built a bunch of power plants, coal-fired power plants, and they have low sulfate levels, much lower than India, as we can see. Not much in Africa either, but there is some on this day in Brazil, but it's much, much lower. Some of this could be wildfires. I don't know. But my point is, Brazil definitely has a lot lower sulfate levels than India. And in their hot, dry season, September, it has been heating up like crazy down there. September 2020, 2021, you see we're even getting into you can't see it, but this is 4C or more above baseline. 2021, 2022, not quite as hot. 23, yes, that was very hot that year. We had the El Nino going, and I'm sure that did amplify it somewhat. And I know at that time everybody said, well, it's just El Nino. That's the only reason Brazil is burning up. Except that 2024, the El Nino was gone, and it was still very hot. 2025, a La Nina. We did get a little bit of a La Nina. It's still hot. Not quite as hot, but I think we see a pattern here. Brazil, their hot, dry season, they are heating up like crazy, which is what you would expect because the global average temperature is skyrocketing. Now, some people might say, well, how is Brazil growing so much soy successfully? They're growing more and more soy down there. And it is down, it's really south of the Amazon itself where the big soy growing project is going on. And the thing is, Brazil, they still have, at least for now, they have a reliable rainy season. And even though it's getting delayed a little bit, it still kicks in by, say, the second half of October. And their growing season for soybeans, that's kind of their main crop, is the soybeans, which they grow. They plant them starting in September, but they have a long window to plant. And their main growing season is late October, November, December, January. And during those months, Brazil still has a very reliable rainy season. And it is getting warmer in those months too. But it's not out of control. They're mostly most of the highs are, maybe it used to be a high of 90, now maybe it's 93, 95. And that is still cool enough to get a pretty good soybean crop. Anyway, I hope this adds some more evidence to my claims, and stay tuned for more.